Hey folks, welcome back for another build video where we're putting together a build with the Lexington named high-end assault rifle and the new Virtuoso gear set. So right off the top, I want to put a disclaimer out about the Lexington Assault Rifle. This is of course a veteran reward that was rolled out in late 2024, and it was rewarded at the current level of the player, meaning that if you were at level 40, you got a level 40 Lexington, but if you were at a lower level, 5, 10, 20, whatever, you got the Lexington at that level, meaning that it is not available to everybody who's putting together a level 40 build at this time. So with that being said, while we are going to use this rifle in this build, any other high-end assault rifle that you would like to use can be slotted in here, especially if you don't have a Lexington available to you. With that out of the way, let's get into this one. For the specialization, we've gone with the gunner, and that is primarily for the incessant talent, granting 10% armor on kill. For our primary weapon, we've already talked about it, but we're going with the Lexington, primarily for the innate plus 5% weapon damage that this assault rifle has, as identified by that gold text in the total damage category there. On top of that, we've gone with damage to target out of cover in the secondary attribute slot and measured as the talent. The top half of the magazine has 25% rate of fire and a minus 25% weapon damage. The bottom half of the magazine has a minus 18% rate of fire and plus 30% total weapon damage. So as you'll see later on with the Virtuoso gear set, you're going to be swapping between short, mid, and long range targets just to try and get both halves of the Symphony bonus. Measured isn't a talent that we have a ton of experience with, but I feel like it works really well when you're swapping between short, mid, and even long range targets, because at close range that rate of fire is really nice to have, where at longer ranges the additional weapon damage helps take down your targets. For secondary weapon, we've gone with the Scorpio exotic shotgun. I know it's been nerfed as of season 6, but I just can't get myself away from this as a secondary weapon. It still sports the septic shock talent, albeit with higher values for all of those status effects, but I still find it significantly usable and a great get out of jail free card if you find yourself cornered and stuck in a spot where you need to poison and then disorient enemies to get out of a sticky situation. For our sidearm, we've gone with the TDI card custom, which comes with the unique +1 skill tier in the secondary attribute slot there. And then we've gone with the future perfect talent. Weapon kills grant +1 skill tier for 15 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Weapon kills at skill tier 6 grant overcharge for 15 seconds with an overcharge cooldown of 90 seconds. Obviously on this build you're never going to get to that overcharge, but it is still a nice sidearm to have, primarily for the +1 skill tier up there. It helps boost your Reviver Hive, which is really nice if you're in a group, because it means you can swap to this weapon, throw out your Reviver Hive, get up an ally, and then go grab your Reviver Hive without having to lose all of your charges and start that full cooldown. For mask, we have our first of 4 pieces of Virtuoso gear. Let's go ahead and run through all of the gear set piece bonuses here, and then we'll touch on them briefly as they get unlocked later in the build. So at 2 pieces, you get plus 15% weapon handling and plus 15% mag size. Both of those are just great to have on any build, but in particular when you're going to be looking at trying to get long range targets with an AR, that weapon handling is really nice to have. As we always highlight whenever a build has weapon handling on it, weapon handling is a roll up attribute, which means that plus 1% weapon handling gives plus 1% accuracy, stability, reload speed, and weapon swap speed. And then at 3 pieces here you get plus 15% weapon damage, and then at 4 pieces you unlock the Symphony talent. Killing an enemy further than 25 meters away will provide plus 40% weapon damage to shotguns, SMGs, and pistols, plus 20% damage to assault rifles and LMGs, and 25% bonus armor for 15 seconds. Killing an enemy within 25 meters will provide plus 40% weapon damage to marksman rifles and rifles, plus 20% weapon damage to assault rifles and LMGs, and plus 30% headshot damage for 15 seconds. Intermittently killing enemies from both ranges will build up stacks. At 4 stacks, all bonuses are multiplied by 2 and triggered at the same time for 15 seconds. No stacks are acquired while these bonuses are active. So what does that all mean for this build? So on this build we have an assault rifle, and that is specifically because, as you can note there, you get weapon damage bonuses for assault rifles killing enemies in both the greater than 25 meter and closer than 25 meter ranges, meaning that while you don't get the maximum benefit from one of the ranges, you do get a very even split of plus 20% from both close and long range, meaning that you're not penalizing yourself for hunting for kills from the short and long range. Rather, you have a really nice baseline of plus 20% weapon damage to your assault rifle while you're killing enemies with this build. On top of that, as you can see down there, intermittently killing enemies from both ranges builds stacks. So with a Virtuoso assault rifle build, the way it'll work, as you'll see in the video, is you're just hunting for short and long range, kind of just taking targets of opportunity, playing like you normally would. And then as you kill enemies at both plus 25 meters and less than 25 meters, you're alternating building stacks towards the pinnacle of the Symphony talent, which activates at 4 stacks unmodified, where you get all of the bonuses listed and multiplied by 2 for 15 seconds. And a quick note here, I'm saying short and long ranges, even though, as you can see on screen, the range for short range is actually 0 to 12 meters, and long is 31 meters plus. So in theory, you could proc all of the Symphony talent's requirements in the medium range. But the problem with that is it's really hard to judge 25 meters exactly. So what you can do is you can use the indicator between the medium and long range to indicate whether you're getting a kill that is more than 25 meters, because that switchover point will happen at 30 meters, meaning that if you're getting a long range kill, you're getting a kill that is greater than 25 meters away. And if you're getting a short range kill, you are guaranteed to be getting a kill 25 meters or closer. And then obviously there's a lot of play within that medium range to also get those shorter than 25 meter kills. But it means that you can easily proc both short and long range benefits while also satisfying the Virtuoso's plus and minus 25 meter ranges. On top of that, we have a core attribute of weapon damage and then secondary attributes of critical hit chance. And then in the mod slot, we also have critical hit chance. As with any crit hit build, follow the equation on screen here to figure out what your statistics should be, whether you should be building into crit hit chance or crit hit damage to get the maximum out of your particular build. For a backpack, we have our second piece of Virtuoso gear that unlocks the 2-piece bonus of weapon handling and mag size. And then on top of that, we also have a core attribute of weapon damage and a secondary attribute of critical hit chance, and then critical hit chance again here in the mod slot. And then the backpack here has the talent Accelerando, which decreases the number of stacks needed to proc the Symphony double buffs from 4 to 3. So we'll scroll back up for a second. So that third paragraph about intermittently killing enemies from both ranges, now you only need 3 stacks instead of 4 to proc those double bonuses, which is really beneficial. Given that this is the first build that we've put together with Virtuoso, we wanted to try out both the chest and backpack talent. I think on future builds we might play around with a different backpack talent just to see how much you really lose by having to build to that 4th stack as opposed to just 3. But for now, this is what we've gone with, which means, again, you can proc those double bonuses faster than you otherwise would. For chest piece, we have our third piece of Virtuoso, unlocking that plus 15% weapon damage bonus. And then here again, we have the gear set specific talent of Fortissimo, which doubles the weapon damage of Symphony. So this chest talent feels particularly great. It doubles all of those weapon damage bonuses that you can read out there. And then on top of that, when you double the bonuses with the Virtuoso's third paragraph, you're also doubling that on top of that. So it's really great to get this chest piece on a build, just so you can get all of that damage working for you in concert. For gloves, we've gone with Contractor's Gloves, primarily for the unique attribute of plus 8% damage to armor. Obviously, that brand set bonus is doing nothing for us, but the multiplier of damage to armor is really great to have on a crit hit build. On top of that, we've gone with critical hit damage down in that secondary attribute slot. And then here for our holster, we have our fourth and final piece of Virtuoso gear, unlocking the Symphony talent that we've been talking so much about. And again, just to summarize, when you pair this with the chest and backpack talents, it now reads that you get, specifically for this build, plus 40% weapon damage to ARs when you kill enemies further than 25 meters, and you get plus 40% weapon damage to ARs and when you kill enemies within 25 meters. And then on top of that, intermittently killing enemies from both ranges will build stacks at 3 stacks. All bonuses are multiplied by 2 and triggered at the same time for 15 seconds. And then last here we have our Fox's Prayers Kneepads, again a staple on any crit hit build because of that unique plus 8% damage to target out of cover. And then again, the secondary attribute slot there, we have critical hit damage. For our talents, we put with the Reviver Hive and the Crusader Ballistic Shield. While the Reviver Hive isn't necessarily required on this build, I really like it because you are running on the bleeding edge with what is effectively 7 weapon cores. So you don't have a lot of armor, you might find yourself going down, especially if you're running solo. But even if you're not, having the Reviver Hive is really good to get yourself back up or get an ally up if you're in a group. As we talked about, you can pair it with the TDI card to get an extra charge out of this Reviver Hive for any allies that you go down with when you are running in a group. On top of that, the Crusader Ballistic Shield I find pairs really well with an all red core build, even though you don't have any tiers stacked into that. Even a tier 1 shield here can help keep you up and help you face tank your enemies a little bit to take them down faster than you otherwise would, having to hide behind cover the whole time. It's just a great situational skill, but obviously both of these are preferential. The crux of this build is the Virtuoso gear set, your gloves, your knee pads, and whatever highest hitting assault rifle that you have for your primary weapon. With that, let's talk about our modifiers here. For this build, we've gone with the Persistence multi-zone passive modifier. Eliminating enemies at any range grants you one of the following buffs for 5 seconds. At short range, you get plus 20% movement speed. At medium range, you get plus 30% accuracy, and at long range, you get plus 20% reload speed. Eliminating an enemy at a different range replaces the currently active buff, and the buffs cannot stack and their durations cannot be refreshed. The reason I went with this multi-zone passive modifier is because you're swapping between greater than 25 meter kills and shorter than 25 meter kills. It effectively works through those short, medium, and long ranges pretty well, giving you access to all of these buffs, as you'll see in the video later on. Our second passive modifier we have By the Teeth. Each shot to an enemy's body increases damage up to 2.5x. The multiplier grows by 0.5x with each shot, and any registered headshot will reset it. The bonus can be stacked on different enemies, and shooting an enemy outside of long range resets the stacks. So this is our first time really playing around with By the Teeth. I find it does work fairly well on this build, given that when you're focused on killing a long range target, you don't have to swap back and forth, so you can keep that 2.5x damage modifier active while you're going for long range targets. And then third here we have the Retribution passive modifier, which is effective at medium range. Shooting enemies inside medium range builds up to 100 stacks, and then for each stack you gain 0.5% critical hit chance. So if you're doing the math there, that's a maximum of 50% critical hit chance. But then you lose 1 stack for every bullet fired after reaching 100 stacks. So there's no way to maintain that 50% critical hit chance. So realistically, at best, you have an average of plus 25% critical hit chance. But obviously know that that is fluctuating massively as you continue to fire shots. So for us on this specific build, given that it is a gear set build where you're sacrificing a secondary attribute slot for every gear set piece you have, critical hit chance was a little hard to come by. So we're only up to about 50% on this build, meaning that the Retribution passive modifier here helps close that gap for the majority of the time that we're shooting. But obviously this passive modifier in particular is one you could swap out very easily if you have something you would prefer instead of Retribution. But with that, we wrap up this build. Let us know what you think of it in the comments below. Particularly, let us know what you think of the Lexington Assault Rifle. How many of you didn't get a level 40, which is obviously very unfortunate. And then what do you think of the Virtuoso gear set? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? If you hate it, are there any modifications that you would suggest to this gear set to make it more effective? Or is it just not your particular cup of tea? In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like it if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and tell your friends about the channel so you can continue to help us grow and make videos like this. Please enjoy the gameplay roll forthcoming, and we will see you in the next one.
halted. Override required. Ski detected.
This is a call out to the division.
Progress resumed. Override required.
So, it has been brought to my attention that I may not have stayed on topic last time. I'm still...
Reinforcements incoming. Serious trauma detected.
Next time, don't get shot.
Detected.
Much longer. Yes, I need a new vest. I need cover.
Vital signs critical.
I'm gonna destroy it. I'll try that minigun.
Bring it!
Detecting additional hostile